How are you feeling? How is everybody doing? I'm looking at you. I'm looking you in the eye. You need to react. All right. Just because, you know, as the afternoon sets in, sometimes we feel a low, but that is going to pass very quickly, okay? Because we have been teasering throughout the day that this is where the excitement actually begins. Even more so because we are about to set off on a journey, on our customers' journey. So we're going to hear from various customers. Many of our valued partners are going to share their story and their journey. And they're going to speak very bluntly. So these are going to be very open sessions and presentations. And we very much look forward to that. And thank you for joining us, to anyone who is also tuning in online. All right, so to start off, who do we have? We will be beginning with Innocent Drinks, with the delicious Innocent Drinks. And we have Jordi Langereis, who is about to join us. Now, Jordi has been automation and systems team lead with Innocent ever since 2022. Along with his team, he delivers the high availability of all process automation and manufacturing systems of the manufacturing site with an output of 200 million liters per year. Amongst other tasks, he develops and he executes the automation roadmap and digital strategy. He also collaborates with the engineering, the supply chain, the finance, the operations, and the QSHE leaders to drive the highest standards and optimization of automation for the factory itself. Here's a fun fact before I bring him out. You better stick around to the very end, because not only is he going to share some valuable insights, but during COVID, it got a bit out of hand with Jordi, and he kind of got carried away with two of his hobbies: pottery and pizza. Yes, I did my research, Jordi. So if you need a tip on what is the best flour to use to bake a pizza or how to bake the perfect teapot, approach Jordi. He's your go-to guy, all right? Now, with that said, please give him a huge round of applause. Let's hear it for Jordi. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the great introduction. I won't talk about pizza or about making teapots today, but thank you also, Krones, for inviting me today on the stage here to talk about digital collaboration, mostly about the MSA performance tool. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, it's about 20 minutes, you guys are as excited about data as I am. Or at least maybe we have a teaser on what you can do with data and how you can utilize this in the best way to improve your operational efficiency together with the specialists of Krones that give you the right push for training and preventive maintenance. Before I talk and deep dive into the MSA performance tool, I do want to give a little bit of an introduction about Innocent for you who don't know who they are. Innocent started at 1999. There were 3 guys that bought about 500 pounds of fruit and vegetables. They blended this up in their kitchen blender. They went to a jazz festival with their smoothies and their juices, and they put up on the jazz festival a big banner saying, "Should we give up our day drinks and day jobs and start making these drinks?" At the end of the festival, the yes bin was completely filled with empty bottles, and that's the day that Innocent Drinks was founded. This was founded under the purpose to make life a bit easier and a bit better. What I like about this story is that from 1999 to only 20 years later, we went from this blender at their kitchen table to a blender that is our manufacturing site that is capable of over 300 million liters per year of production of juice and smoothies. Everybody probably says that their own manufacturing site is the best and the most unique, but I truly believe that our manufacturing site is the best. I'll tell you why. We're not only caring about the output of product and the quality of it, but we also care about the employees that work there. So 5 years ago, the blender has been installed under the highest standards, the BREEAM standards, which makes sure that you have the right environment of the building that takes care of the well-being of the environment and the workers that are there. But also, we're trying to do a little bit more about the planet. So on one hand, you can see here on the left, we reduce the water usage compared to other factories with about 50%. And the way we do this is we clean and we do product recovery with a high-speed tornado through our pipelines, push out all the product, and therefore we don't need to use extra water for push out and cleaning. But the thing I'm most excited about is that I'm allowed to announce that we are the very first all-electric carbon-neutral factory in the FMCG world. So at Rotterdam Port, at the Food Hub, we don't have a gas pipe. We do everything all electric, and the way we do that, by one hand, is to generate energy via the solar park that we have on site, and we purchase offshore wind energy. But it's not enough to just have a lot of electricity and then you have an all-electric site. You also need to put in new innovation and technology. One that I just quickly want to highlight before we go into data, not more about sustainability. You have a fridge at home. When you cool down products, at the end, at the back of the fridge, it's always hot. So you can put your hand there, it's always warm, right? We do the same with our process. So when we cool down after pasteurization our juice, you have all this excess heat. We capture this up with our heat pumps and we warm up our 90 degrees water again. And this 90 degrees process water we use again to reheat and to pasteurize our juices again. So at the end, when we're in proper production, we don't need to add in any extra electrical energy to warm up our process water anymore, which is quite unique. But enough about sustainability, about Innocent. You guys care more about data and what we do here today. Today, Innocent has the ambition to almost double in size and to get 1 billion more portions of fruit and vegetables at the hand of the drinkers by 2030. And we do this under roughly the same purpose as we had in 1999, to make it easier to live well through the delicious goodness of fruit and vegetables. But how do we do that? Because this is exactly where the digital collaboration with Krones comes in. Because how do we get an extra 1 billion portions of fruit through the factory when this factory is already running for 24/7 operations and we're trying to push out every day, every hour, the extra liters? The only way we can do this is by optimizing the filling lines in the best way. So how do we make sure that we get the best output every minute, every hour out of the filling lines? Krones is already with us since the beginning of the build of the factory 5 years ago. So we already have the major suite of digital solutions from them, from the advanced planning and scheduling system to the laboratory management system. But today, I want to zoom in on the MSA Performance Tool. It stands for Modular Service Agreement Performance Tool. I did tell already to Krones it's not the most sexy name, they should change this, but okay, we'll go with it. The way the tool works, it gathers the data from the advanced analytics tool. It creates the reports, and with that reports you can now identify the biggest time stealers. You can see where your OEE improvements are, and you can see what the next step would be for your factory. But data doesn't get you by yourself. What I think is really important, what we found out as well, is if you just have a bunch of data and reports, nothing's going to change in your factory today. So what you need to do is, on one hand, you need to have the reports, then you need to have your operations team and your maintenance team on board as well, because they know everything that's going on the shop floor. And lastly, you need the support of the Krones specialists, because they know how you should run your filling line in the best way. This is one of the 9 reports that we use during our weekly meetings. So we go over a weekly performance tool, where we look into top time stealers. So here you can see the output of the messages that gave us the biggest time stealers and the biggest issues in the factory, where we can focus on for next week of what to improve. And in December 2023, we started with this pilot together with Krones. So we implemented the advanced analytics tool, which is the data collector to get all the raw data out of your filling lines. And we started with the performance cycles together with Krones to make sure to see where we could improve. From that moment on, we already saw a huge improvement in our operational efficiency, the OEE. And from May 2024, we came up with a collaborative ambition to grow our OEE even more, so around 10%. We didn't exactly make the 10%, but that was also due to the fact that Innocent finally was ready to now import and insource more of the complex recipes that we have today. And also, probably everybody in Europe knows what you had to do, the change from normal caps to tethered caps to attached caps, which was a huge challenge for us. But overall, we got another 7.8% output of the factory. I'm not going to put you on stage, but Bernd personally, I do want to thank you a lot. So Bernd has been our project manager. He's sitting over here. Just a little wave. Thank you, Bernd. Bernd has been with us since the beginning of the factory. First as site manager, implementing the filling lines, making sure they run and stabilized, and is now the project manager for us for the pilot. And together with him and the rest of the team behind him, we managed to get an extra OEE improvement out of it, and we'll not stop there. I can talk a lot about how we got to the total improvements, but what I thought is handy is to give you away 3 major use cases that are quite tangible, and hopefully if you already have, if you work daily in your factory of filling, then you probably know these issues that you have already on site. So one is, how do I identify the time stealers that I have in the factory? So where do I know what to focus on? The second one is around the quality of packaging material towards your line. And the last one is around the supply of cleaning media that runs your filling line. So the first one is the time stealers identification. I found this one quite a silly and interesting one at the same time. But when we installed the data collectors and we started with the performance routines, we found out that the pack conveyor at the end of our lines are the biggest time stealer, which wasn't quite surprising for us. So on one hand, Krones took this away. They found out it was the labeling machine of the packer. And then we took this away to our maintenance team again to investigate what would happen on the shop floor. What we found out is that the operators, they see an issue at the back of the line. They walk there, they see that the labeler is in error, they press an acknowledgement button, and they walk away again. And this is about, for them, a 2-minute downtime. Not much, not even mentionable in the reports that we have. They maybe do this a few times per shift, but that's it. But when we installed the reports and we looked over a week back, we actually saw that the operators collectively in 1 week over all of our filling lines would walk up and down 500 times. And this is what the report showed. The 500 times is equal for us to 35 hours of downtime a week, which is huge, of course. But they never wrote this down and they never mentioned this to us because it was just a part of their standard operations. So when we knew this, with the Krones specialist, we wrote down a preventive maintenance plan and a training plan for the operators. And within 6 to 8 weeks, we saw a huge decrease in the biggest time stealer that we had since the beginning. The second one is around the quality of packaging material. So we have recycled plastic at Innocent. So we use recycled PET bottles, and if you might have seen them, they have quite a big range in color. So they can be very dark and very light, which often gives us issues with the blow molder. But we don't really have a good overview. So when we saw the blow molder being a big time stealer for us, the Krones specialists, they took this away, they created the reports for us, and right now we have a great overview on what type of time stealers we have. What type of waste we have on the packaging material. And if we have a waste rate of higher than 2% on the preforms, we directly create an alert to the operators, and the operators from that moment on can take action. Which is what I personally like about this machine, because from the beginning, the operators would walk around, they would understand, okay, we have a problem with the blow molder, well, what is it exactly, or what do I need to look for? But now, with this extra alert that we have, already from the moment on we have the higher rate of waste, the operators know, okay, it's packaging material. I need to look at my preforms, do some extra tests, maybe adjust the parameters on the machine, or maybe I need to just request a new batch of packaging material to see if that runs better. So we give the control directly towards the operators. The last one is roughly the same in output, but it's around cleaning material that's supplied to the filling lines. Also here, we see that alerting, triggering messages to the operator is the best way to work. So first, around steam pressure, we have sterile machines. The sterility is being maintained by the UHT models, and the UHT models in itself, they need high steam pressure. If we have steam pressure drops, the UHT modules will fail, and all of our filling lines will go on sterile, which is quite a big problem for us, because then we need to clean and sterilize the filling lines again. And with that, it takes about half a shift of downtime. The specialists of Krones, they took this away. They looked at early steam drop measurements, and from those data points, were able to create alerts to our maintenance team to let them know we had early issues with the steam. And therefore, the maintenance team by that moment had about 10 minutes to go to the other side of the factory to reset the generator to continue smooth operations. Actually, last I spoke to one of the maintenance team, and they had the alert a few weeks ago, and they were able to reset the generator and continue the operations without any downtime, which for them was a great success. And they were very happy that they finally now got the availability on their phone to get this alerts. The second one is around the H2O2. So we clean our caps and our preforms with H2O2. And when we sometimes have issues with it, we don't know exactly what happened. So we took this away again, and we saw that it was air bubbles in our H2O2. And the air bubbles, they came when we would have a switch over of one IBC that was empty towards another IBC. It's super easy, but also here, we just create an alert when one IBC is almost empty, switch already over, because then you don't have air. Then you don't take in air when the IBC is empty. Very easy, simple way of just making sure the operators can take action directly. And the last one is around the chemicals supply when you're cleaning the filling lines. So when you're cleaning the filling lines, you start the sequence as an operator, and it cleans for about 2 hours. They're not going to stand next to the filling line waiting for it to be cleaned, but they're going to go walk away and do other operations. But what can happen is that you don't have caustic available to actually clean the lines. So after half an hour, the line itself will go in error and basic position, and you need to start the whole sequence over again. The operator, though, isn't there. Doesn't see it at all. So after 1.5 hours, he will come back to the line, expecting it to be cleaned, but it's not. It's in basic operations. And worst case, this operator doesn't even know why it was back in basic operation. So it will just start the cleaning session again and walk away again, and we have the whole same situation all over. Now, again, one simple alert. After 5 minutes of no cleaning supply to your filling lines, we trigger an alert towards the operators saying we need to change the IBCs and make sure that you can have smooth operations again and the filling line can continue to clean. Very quickly, I hope I gave you a small introduction, or at least an overview of what you can do when you finally harness the data of your filling lines, which I find really impressive. So if you have the data collectors, you get all the data out of it, and you get the right reports, you can finally see where your biggest time stealers are. And from that moment on, when you know your time stealers, you can take action. But again, it's not just the reports that will get you to a better OEE. It's on one hand, it's really important that the maintenance team and the operations team are embedded to understand the alerts, to understand when to take action, and to give us the feedback of what's happening on the shop floor. And on the other hand, you need the Krones specialist to take away the use cases, because they understand in the best way of how to run their factory and how to run their filling lines. And with those combined triangle, you can get to a better operational improvement. And it actually just a happier shift for everyone. We won't stop there, hopefully. We will continue to run out the advanced analytics tool and the shop floor guidance. So we'll make sure we have more and more alerts going towards the operators and the maintenance team so they can be more proactive during the shift. We'll start also with a pilot of integrated analytics, which is the new module that looks over data over a longer aggregated period of time, more than months. And you're able from the integrated analytics to also compare your filling lines together. So far we've only been looking at one filling line and the time stealers from that specific filling line. But with this tool, we're also able to now compare the bases and to see which is our best line and which is the worst performing line. And lastly, we're not there yet. We still need to get this extra billion portions of fruit and vegetables out. So we still need to continue our operational efficiency and make sure we get the max out of our filling lines. That's it for me today. Thank you very much. I hope it was interesting enough, and I hope you guys are now as excited about data as I am. If not, then we should have another talk about, or maybe about pizza. But at least thank you for today. If you need any questions, you can find me later.